All right, guys. Hey, thanks for joining me today. Let's look at the shop, and then let's look at a couple fields. But I suggest you guys go over, because I'm trying to learn from this guy, and I'm trying to next year do a better job of incorporating what he's doing. Rye Carlson out of Mora, Minnesota. He's a crazy guy doing some pretty neat, interesting stuff. And he understands, he's got a good grasp of the science of why he's doing it and how it's supposed to function. And now it's a matter of just taking it from paper to soil, and he's doing it. So in his soybeans, he got some, for the year that we've had here, and being an organic guy, he's got some amazing looking corn and beans over there. And he's very aggressive on the cover crops to reduce tillage in organic farming. And so I'm trying to copy him in conventional farming. Can I reduce tillage and go back to just some light, shallow passes, bring in a lot of cover crops, and if I have to take advantage of I have the opportunity to take advantage of some chemicals as a pre-emerge program, use cover crops and cultivating for the rest of the year. I'm keeping a close eye. Rye's got a bunch of good videos out, and so I'm keeping a close eye on it, because if it works good for him this year, 100%, I will get after his program next year in a more conventional system, to kind of best of both worlds. Pre-emerge on the conventional side to start us out clean and get us going, and then the organic cover crop stuff to keep us clean. And so he's got some go check him out, and let's check out the shop, and then let's look at a couple fields. All right, guys. Hey, thanks for joining me today. Let's do a quick shop update. We haven't talked shop for a long time. One little tip of the day we'll talk about, and then we'll go look at the non-GMO, the food grade beans, and see how they're recovering since the Cobra burn and we foliar fed them, and see how they're doing. We got the 4440. Well, the 8640 is still here. I got the engine together. But then when I was going to put the flywheel on and keep going forward, this bushing doesn't fit in the flywheel anymore. It's supposed to press in there. So what I'm going to have to do is take it next door, weld this up, and machine that back down to fit that bushing. Or for, I can do that for a couple $100 or less. Probably for $100 bill I can do that. For a lot of $100 bills, we can get another used flywheel in here. And so I think to help save some money, why not just do that? Nice 4440. Head gasket was leaking a little bit. We're pushing some water out of the coolant, and the clutch started slipping a little bit, and it just rubbed. They're supposed to have texture on them, but you can see here where it's really coming apart. And this side just rubbed smooth. We don't see that very often. You see it where this laminate comes off of the metal plate, but you don't get to see it where it just rubbed it smooth very often. And so, yeah, here's a really good looking plate. So you can see that texture. You can see the color pattern. There's just nothing left. So they got their money's worth out of that. Simple perma-clutch job, and then some AC work and some miscellaneous stuff, and he'll be good to go. 7410. I'll tell you. Probably one of my biggest crushes was a 7410. I had a crush on a lot of tractors as a young guy growing up. But that 7410, man, whenever one of these things came into the dealership to go out to farms for demo and for sale, you were like that lucky bugger. Beautiful tractor, fantastic for even how we're farming now, for hay and cattle and row crop, kind of the mix of two worlds. This is the one that the planetary grenaded. So these are what's left of the gears that were in that front hub, And so yeah, that's just the retaining washer. It shattered that all the heck. And so yeah, even, you know, it even kind of gouged on that bolt. Pretty amazing. Kind of funny what happens when you're driving across the pasture and the wheel locks up. You know, all it takes is one gear to start to fail, and yep. So we got the new hub and the bushings, and I love, because right now I got it running. It clicked ready. So right now I got it running for my bearing for the axle to go on. I really like warming them up in oil. It just works so nice because it's safe. You don't have to worry about any damage to the bearing, and they just slide right on. But yep, so most of the parts are here for that planetary. So Dad wants to work on that later today and keep this tractor going, and then just service the front axle, transmission oil and filter service, and then see that sump screen. On these 6,000 and 7,000 series, their brake pads delaminate quite often. It's not unheard of. And so we'll pull the sump screen and drop the rear end oil and see what that sump screen, if we see much brake material. They did not, you know, when they went to the 6,000 and 7,000 series, they never stopped the brake pad failure. And so that's what we got here, 4030. I'm a little messy right now because we're in the teardown of it and cleanup. Here's my tip for you. Here's my tip. Is this rubber seal. That's a grease seal and a dirt seal. He rides on a little collar, and he is an absolute miserable pain in the butt. You can get this bearing off. You can get them cups out of there. To get these cups out of there, you weld them. You put a weld bead on them. And then there's a notch in the casting, and that you can get your slide hammer finger behind the bearing, and they pop right out. Or what I've even done in the past is weld a plate across and come with a bar from the other end and just knock them things right out. And that works pretty good. That is nothing compared to trying to drive this guy on. So what I do, instead of spending a lot of money in making a tool and time and energy, is I take the old bearing that comes off of here, because to get this old bearing off, I take this old seal and just knock this seal onto the axle more, and then I hold it and I just cut it with a cutoff wheel, and you just bend it and it comes right off the axle. Hit this bearing with the then I take the cutoff grinder and cut the cage off, and then I just take the rosebud, and you get this bearing glowing in a couple spots. He knocks right off real easy. And then when I take it to the vise and I cut it with the grinder, and then this becomes my installation tool for this, and it turns this into a 30-second job. I guarantee you, if you're going to do these axle bearings on your own, and they're a great project to do on your own if you're that mechanically inclined and willing to do it, and you got the tools to do it, right there, you can send your donations to me, because I just saved you a whole lot of cuss words with that little tip. So, all right, that's it for here. Dad's 4020. We're going to be selling that. He wants to sell that. I don't want to buy it. We don't need it on the farm anymore. We bought that decades ago. He wants to sell it so he can go camping more. And it's it's a late model factory cab synchro. He just, did bearings on the bottom end and timing cover gasket. He'll do the dampener, cleaning up the front end. He'll go through the hydraulic pump, cleaning the radiators and the coolers and stuff. And then I don't know what level of paint he's going to do. We got the 1838 tires that came off of the 4430s, and we're going to put them on the back there. And yeah, that'll be a fantastic buy for somebody. All right, well, here's the non-GMO beans. They have came a long ways. They are looking really good. Oh, look at the little, yeah, go to work for me, buddy. Go to work for me. So these, a quick summary of how these went so far. We were able to spray their pre-emerge program on time. We were able to plant them on time, and then the rains came. And luckily, you know, 98% of the field came up. There is a couple little spots like this that got some water damage with the rain behind planting. So our plan was 10 days after the pre-emerge program was a secondary chemical, and then 20 days later you would have done a third program. When the rains came, they never let off. We were never able to do it. You know, you're at 50 and 60 days by the time we were able to come out here on second pass. By then the thistles had got super big, and some other weeds were really coming in. So we came in with some Cobra, Basagrin, Clethodome, and some Warrant as our residual to keep it clean. And it did a great job. And we let that go for a couple weeks. The Cobra dinged the beans pretty good. So then a couple weeks later, we started coming into R1, R2 on the plant stage. So that's when we came in with that foliar feed and some micronutrients, some source product to try to stimulate the plant to go get more P and K, sugars, several different sugars to just promote soil life. And it worked. They're coming up phenomenal. They're getting big and bushy. Leaves look fantastic. You can see the damage on the lower leaves is down there, but they're moving along quite well. And then right after that, chemical application and foliar feeding, not too long, when the weeds started to die pretty good. So a couple weeks after the chemical, about the same time as the foliar, that's when we cultivated, and it really cleaned it up quite well. We've been 4 weeks of dry, and so it's quite strange for me to see 4 weeks of dry weather and not seeing a whole lot of drought stress. There's little tiny indicators on some fields around here, but I see zero the plants flipping their leaves. We got moisture. As I dance around here, I don't have to go very far, and you hit moisture in the soil. We probably are doing better than mentally able to understand how we're doing good. Apparently we did a good job of getting that moisture into the soil, because behind the cows we hit it with the finisher twice to try to smooth it up behind the cows at a shallow. And then I did strip till with no fertilizer. I did strip till, just run the shank through just to bust it up to get moisture in there and to keep them seedlings high and dry. And we'll talk about the value of the strip till in adverse weather conditions in our crazy world here in a different video. But hey, these beans are cruising right along. I don't think we're terribly far away from entering R3 in the next couple weeks, if not a little sooner. I don't know exactly, but we'll keep checking on it. And let's go check. I haven't showed you that field yet, but let's go check the no-till planted soybeans. Again, they were on time for spraying and planting right before it got too wet. And so let's go check that field out. That'll be new for you guys. Well, here we go. Here's the no-till beans. They were kind of planted. They were planted in good conditions. So the field was in good conditions. We sprayed it. We planted it like normal. It's just this one was a little bit later. It was, you know, kind of halfway between on time and towards the tail end. So there's that middle of the road area. We're not quite to R1 yet. One challenge we got in this field and all the fields around here was with all the moisture that we got. Think of when that water droplet gets moving, think of every wormhole, every pore space that water droplet's gonna wiggle down through, it's taking soil particles with it. That's just a standard function of water and soil, and it's going to drag them fine particles into a bigger space and fill it up. And that's what happened. And so the soils around here, I even talked to some of the neighbors, and they're like, oh man, you know, these fields are just concrete hard. They are just hard. You know, but we do have moisture to the top. And the other thing is how hungry our soils are over here. These soils are just naked, starving, and running a fever, as Ray would say. And he's not wrong. I mean, because look at last year's corn crop. The only thing that's left are these little bits of stalk. That's how long. So with the Kloss Capello chopping head, that's how long the stalk gets cut into, and all the leaf and that other little material. I mean, it's gone. It's gone. You see some stuff here, but there's zero ground cover from a decent corn crop last year, and the cover crop, you know, that was here, that's turned to dust. That's gone. One saving grace we had is I moved these from last year, and you can see all the holes underneath there, and so the worms are just going to town, doing their job, helping keep soil function going. The soil is up until now has been slightly on the cool side, and so that's going to help us function. We're probably going to come out with this field at R1 and do a micronutrient sugar feed, a more simple, cost reduced, more of a stick to the basics kind of foliar feed on half of each 3 sections. So you got a 20, a 30, and a 10 down there, or, you know, something like that, 23 and 34, whatever. But half of each 3 sections, we're going to do a foliar feed across there and just see, did a simple micronutrient early on and a sugar give us anything. We are going to start to see impacts of the drought, or, you know, you can't go, you know, by the end of this week, that's going to put us getting close to 5 weeks of dry, and you just can't pull that off. I think by the end of this week, so today's Sunday, I think by the end of this week, we're going to see soybeans flipping leaves. We're going to see some cornfields starting to go a little bit backwards or roping up. Some yellow might start coming back into the corn. It's really tough to say, and so we're trying. Let's see if we can't manage through a little bit of adverse, unfriendly weather pattern here. But we do have a fantastic stand. Very little bit of stand is missing from water damage. Weed control, considering how long it's been since we sprayed herbicide, weed control is doing good, whether it's dry or not. We are going to have to cultivate at some point because you're starting to see some random little groups of escapes. So in another week or two, if them start to get going, we're going to want to knock them down. And the landlord is excited. He'd rather see us cultivate than come out here with more chemical. And I agree. We need to stop. We can build soil with row crop cultivation and cover crops better than we can just dumping more chemical and cost. You know, it's not going to be hard to throw $30 out here on another pass, if not more money. And for what? You know, if I can cultivate for a couple bucks an acre and control 90% of the weeds, I'll keep that $30 or $40 an acre difference in my pocket, and we'll go from there, especially on a year when we're being told we're not going to make much money. So I would suggest you guys go over to Rye Carlson's channel. He's an organic farmer out of Mora, Minnesota.